Yeah, there's an immediacy. You do feel, Deuteronomy does have a you are there feel.
And I like Franz Rosenzweig's, he talks about the commandments in general. This is, for the philosophers in the audience, this is kind of a response to Kant's challenge about heteronomy and autonomy. But for our purpose, the thing is that in the commandment, in tzivui, in the command form, this is now a quote from Franz Rosenzweig. Only in the commandment can the voice of him who commands be heard. Not that doing necessarily results in hearing and understanding, but one hears differently when one hears in doing. The mitzvot offered the Jew who embraces them in faith the possibility of experiencing through them God's commanding address of love. So while you could say bitter, critical, you can read it as you want, but there is a link to Echa, Tochacha, the being present of history, the seeing, the shooting through, as we saw before in that line, of history in the now. The relationship that this is not something, some myth that we read about that happened in antiquity, but that it is, that history is now, and the lessons of history need to be encountered now. That I think is the central point of this.
Where's the love? Doesn't seem to be a lot of love here. It's mainly Moses getting angry at the Jews and blaming them.
That line was about mitzvah, not about not about Tochacha. I borrowed that for this. But Rav Tzadok points out that Tochacha is nochachut. Oh, and actually, you know what? I'm ahead of you. Just I forget my own material. So actually, there's a Midrash Rabbah in Breshit that says explicitly, Tochacha brings to love. Any love without Tochacha is not love. Tochacha brings to peace. Any peace without Tochacha is not peace. This is, one might say that real love is dialectic.
As both reproof and embrace.
It's
moving back and forth from reproof and embrace, or simultaneous.
There's no back and forth. There's no love.
Yeah.
And there's no peace. And peace can be. So I'll give you an example. Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
Right. You had a enforced peace by the strong communist regime that didn't allow the type of dealing with their history that, say, went on in Germany after the war. All sides were simply under threat of force, kept quiet. So whereas in Germany there was an evolution, and it's actually, going back to the Rosh Hashanah in Berlin, actually a pretty favorable place right now for Jews. The moment that the force was taken away in these other countries, Serbia, Croatia, they immediately went at one another violently. So things can look like love or peace because it looks like it's quiet, but the Jewish way needs an argument. So you can't have growth, evolution, true resolution of history without the back and forth, which is, I think, one of the beauties of the Jewish midrashic.
When should we as Jews hate each other? Like if someone denies the divinity of the Torah, or if someone drives on Shabbos, like when should we hate each other?
I don't know. Hate is not usually a positive.
What about contempt? When should we have contempt
the Baal
for each other?
The Baal Shem Tov said that every emotion, right? He was a big fan. The whole thing about Chassidus is transformation,
yeah,
right, rather than negation.
Yeah.
If you have bad issues with love or other such things, you should transform them. Except anger, he says, because that one never, anger never
does you any good.
The other thing you have to do about them is like the Levinat's line is to be sensitive to recognizing them and reacting against them immediately. But I can't imagine as we come up to Tisha B'Av that anyone could ever come up with a message of where one should hate a fellow Jew.
What if they're?
I find that hateful.
What if they're a Republican? Shouldn't you then hate them if they're a Republican?
I have been Republican in my life.
No, Mark, no.
I think in the Reagan time, and George will, I think it's not. I don't feel that I have to. That one needs to be defined in either way by a camp. I think what we learn is that it's issue by issue, line by line, phrase by phrase. That's what textual reading teaches.